I see. This is a multiple-choice question testing your knowledge of a specific dataset in Sklearn, a popular machine learning library in Python. We'll analyze each statement individually to determine which ones are true. Let's dive in. This simply indicates we're about to investigate the properties of this particular dataset. Think of this as a title for this section, setting the stage for our analysis. This statement proposes that the data has already undergone a transformation called TF-IDF, Term Frequency Inverse Document Frequency, a common text preprocessing technique. TF-IDF converts text into numerical vectors to represent the importance of words within a collection of documents. This is part of the puzzle. Here, the statement suggests the dataset contains text in its original form, requiring additional preparation like TF-IDF before it's ready for machine learning models to work with. We need to determine if this is consistent with what we know about the dataset. The statement claims the target variable, that is, what we're trying to predict, is the newsgroup that each piece of text comes from. This is a very important piece of information. This statement implies that the matrix used to represent the text data is sparse, meaning it primarily contains zeros. This is a common trait of TF-IDF representations because most words won't appear in every document. Let's see if we can verify this. This tells me we are dealing with a function in the Sklearn library that specifically provides vectorized data from a collection of newsgroup posts. The name itself is very important. Fetch20newsgroupsvectorized. It's already vectorized, meaning processed into a numerical form. This refers to the properties of a specific dataset. Fetch20newsgroupsvectorized from the Sklearn library. It's a collection of newsgroup posts that are already pre-processed. That means someone has already done the hard work of cleaning the data and preparing it for analysis. I see this as a multiple-choice question. You need to choose which statements are correct about the fetch20newsgroupsvectorized dataset. I'm asking you to identify the correct statements about the important features of the dataset. This means understanding what type of data it holds and how it's organized. This statement says the data is already prepared and uses TF-IDF. TF-IDF, Term Frequency Inverse Document Frequency, is a method to convert text into numerical values representing how important each word is in a document and the collection. It's like a scoring system for words. This option suggests the data is not ready to be used in a model. It would require further data preparation first. The target variable is what we're trying to predict. In this case, that's the newsgroup topic each message belongs to. This states that the dataset's feature matrix is sparse, meaning mostly zeros. This is common in text data using TF-IDF since most words aren't in every document. This refers to the properties of the dataset we'll be examining. I'll be explaining what makes this dataset special and what we need to know to answer the questions. We are using a pre-processed version of the 20 newsgroups dataset. This introduces the multiple-choice questions I'll help you answer about the dataset. Get ready. This is the core question. I'll guide you step by step through the analysis to determine which statements are correct regarding the dataset. Let's find out which option describes this dataset accurately. This statement says the data is already prepared. It's been converted to numerical vectors using TF-IDF, a common method to represent text data numerically. I will explain TF-IDF in a bit. This statement suggests we need to clean and prepare the data before using it in a machine learning model. But, I want you to pay attention to the dataset's name. This option says that the target variable, what we're trying to predict, is the newsgroup category. Think about what the 20 newsgroups dataset tries to do. This statement focuses on the structure of the data. A sparse matrix has mostly zeros. I will explain more about the sparse matrix as we move on. I'm focusing on the properties of the fetch_20 newsgroups_vectorized dataset. We'll examine whether the data is pre-processed, the format of the feature matrix, and what the target variable signifies. This refers to term frequency inverse document frequency. It's a method I use to convert text into numerical vectors. Each vector represents a document, and its values show the importance of different words within that document. Words appearing frequently in a single document but rarely across all documents get higher weights. This is what we're trying to predict. Each newsgroup post belongs to a specific category, like sports or politics. This category label is the target variable in our prediction problem. This is a multiple-choice question testing my understanding of this particular scikit-learn dataset. I need to identify the true statements from a list of options describing the data's properties. This statement checks if the dataset has already been processed using the TF-IDF method, transforming text data into numerical vectors. This statement proposes that the data is raw text and needs pre-processing such as conversion to numerical form before I can use it for training a machine learning model. I examine if the label associated with each data point indicates the newsgroup category of the corresponding post. This is fundamental to a classification task. Here, I determine if most of the values in the feature matrix are zeros. This is common with TF-IDF, as most words won't appear in every document. I'm examining the fetch20newsgroupsvectorized function in scikit-learn, which provides vectorized data, meaning the text data has already been converted into a numerical representation using a method like TF-IDF. A sparse matrix is a matrix where most of the elements are zero. Think of it like a vast, mostly empty spreadsheet. This is efficient for storing and processing text data converted via TF-IDF because most words don't appear in all documents. I see this option focuses on what the labels in the dataset represent. Think of it like this. Each news article belongs to a specific category, like sports or politics. The target variable is simply the name of that category for each article. So, this statement is saying that the labels in our dataset tell us which newsgroup each article came from. That's what the target variable directly tells us. This option discusses the structure of our data. A sparse matrix is like a treasure map with mostly empty spaces. It means that most of the values in the matrix are zero. Think about it. In a collection of news articles, most words will only appear in a few articles, not in all of them. TF-IDF, term frequency inverse document frequency, creates this sparse matrix because the frequency of most words will be very low in the whole corpus. Since fetch20newsgroupsvectorized uses TF-IDF, this statement is true. This option talks about the initial state of the data. The name of our function is fetch_20newsgroups_vectorized. The word vectorized tells us that the data has already been processed. So, this option is false. The data has already been converted into numerical vectors, TF-IDF, ready to feed into a machine learning model. We don't need to do any more pre-processing. This option states that the data is already prepared using TF-IDF. Since we know the name of the function includes the term vectorized, which strongly suggests that the data is pre-processed, and TF-IDF is a standard way to vectorize text data, this option is also true. TF-IDF transforms words and articles into numerical values reflecting their importance within a document and across all documents. This simply indicates the type of question. This line isn't relevant to the data itself, it's just the context for the question. I see the term dataset structure, which refers to how the data is organized. In this specific case, we're dealing with a dataset of newsgroup posts. It's important to know how the data is structured to understand what kind of analysis we can perform. This tells me that the data has already been processed, specifically using the TF-IDF method. TF-IDF stands for term frequency inverse document frequency. It transforms text into numerical vectors by assigning weights to each word based on its frequency within a document and across the entire dataset. High frequency in a document but low across all documents means a higher weight. This allows computers to better work with text. A sparse matrix is a matrix where most values are zero. This is common with TF-IDF because many words will not show up in many documents. I imagine it like a giant spreadsheet mostly filled with zeros, reflecting a situation where most words in a particular newsgroup post do not appear in other newsgroup posts. This refers to the labels or categories associated with each data point. In this case, each newsgroup post belongs to a specific category, and this target variable keeps track of those categories. Think of these as the answers: what kind of news it is. This is the question you must answer after understanding the dataset properties. I'll focus on clarifying which statements are true based on your provided explanation in this structure. This statement is true because the dataset is already pre-processed into TF-IDF vectors as already explained. This statement is false because, as I mentioned, the vectorized part of the dataset name implies that the text data has already been pre-processed into numerical vectors. This statement is also true, since the target variable tracks the newsgroup category of each post. This is true because TF-IDF typically generates sparse matrices, which means there are mostly zeros, as I explained above. This quiz question focuses on the scikit-learn dataset, called fetch20newsgroupsvectorized. We'll explore what makes this dataset special. This is the quiz format. I'll guide you to understand the answer choices about the dataset. The question asks us to identify correct characteristics of the fetch20newsgroupsvectorized dataset. Let's dive into the details. This statement says the data is ready for use. It's already been converted into numerical vectors using TF-IDF, a technique that represents the importance of words in a document. It's true because of the vectorized part in the dataset's name. This statement suggests raw text needs processing before modeling. It's false because fetch20newsgroupsvectorized already performs pre-processing. The target variable is what we're trying to predict. In this case, it's the newsgroup each post belongs to. This is true. A feature matrix is a table representing data. Sparse means most values are zeros. This is typical for TF-IDF because each document uses only a fraction of the total words. This is true.